My nightmare romance with my fiance. 9 years, 1 jail sentence, 100 red flags. Am I the Ahole for wanting out? Hello, everyone. This is a throwaway account because my main account is my username for all my other social media. Please do not be too hard on me, as this is my first time writing on Reddit and I am seeking advice without feeling attacked. You know, I am just a girl after all. This is going to be a lengthy post because I intend to discuss my 9-year relationship, and I am a detail-oriented person who dislikes it when people leave information out of their Reddit stories. Should I omit anything, I will gladly answer your questions in the comments. I am a 24-year-old female, and I have been with H, a 23-year-old male, for 9 years. I do not want to hear the typical, "Oh, you two were high school sweethearts," because that is absolutely not the case. We met online through an ex-boyfriend of mine. I won't provide any further details about that, ha, and we only met in person 2 times before becoming a couple. To clarify, those 2 meetings amounted to a total of 1 hour and 30 minutes, so we truly did not know each other at all when we first started dating. We were also extremely young. I was 15, and he misled me about his age, stating he was 16 when he was actually 14. I did not learn about the age discrepancy until a year into our relationship, but I digress. During the first 2 years of our relationship, I cheated quite badly. He cheated as well, but I was far worse. He treated me poorly when he discovered my infidelity, but I understood that I deserved his reaction given how I had treated him, as it was genuinely terrible. However, I was young and insecure, and things were not exactly smooth. Despite this, we stayed together because, honestly, I was his first girlfriend, and I had low self-esteem issues. We both concluded that we were young and would eventually grow out of it. And I told myself I would never hurt him again because I understood how it affected him and did not want to see him in pain like that again. But, as you can imagine, after all the cheating and drama, we were not in a good place. It became even worse when I was 18 and H was 17, and he was sent to jail for a year. During that time, I was the best partner I could be. If he were to see this post, he would wholeheartedly agree. I sent him money for his canteen every week, stayed at his mother's house every weekend to care for her and his little sister, and borrowed over $1,000 from his mother, which I did not fully receive back, but that is fine, by the way. I took his sister out for meals and funfair outings. I attended every visit, even if it meant missing my lectures for the day. I answered 99 of his calls unless I had work commitments and sent him 1 to 2 letters each week, in which I created games and puzzles for him to enjoy. I did not cheat, which is the bare minimum, but I did not even look another man's way. When he was released from jail, I spent over $1,000 on games, clothing, and perfumes to ensure he had the latest things. I did so much and more, and I hoped that, when he was released, we would be happy because I felt I had proven my love. However, since his release, a lot has transpired. Much of what I will describe below occurred from 2019 to the present 2025. He went to Marbella with his friends, staying in a villa with girls, and deceived me about it. Initially, he claimed there would not be any girls present, but while in Marbella, he ignored all my texts and calls, which was particularly upsetting since this happened right before my birthday. He allowed girls to flirt with him during his TikTok live sessions in an effort to become a streamer or TikToker. He argued with me about going live with other females, insisting it was necessary for engagement. He permitted his friend to discuss our private matters on TikTok live during a significant disagreement. Additionally, he apparently allowed his friend to text from his WhatsApp with a message saying, "If they are attractive, I will discipline them," referring to other girls and using leng, which means good-looking in the UK. To this day, I do not believe that his friend sent that text. He attended a party with half-naked models and girls for a music video, which was incredibly embarrassing. He mentioned plans to go to Barcelona with his friends, and his friend suggested inviting girls back to their apartment there, considering there were 3 guys going, 2 of whom are in relationships, including H. He attended a party without informing or discussing it with me, went clubbing behind my back, again without consulting me, and flirted with girls on Snapchat while lying about it for a year. When he used to sell products, he would call the girls on his other phone to flirt with them to prove that he still had it. This is not even everything. I simply do not have the energy to recount everything. But as you can see, I feel foolish, And what makes matters worse is that despite everything, I still wanted so badly to make it work. I loved him, I was genuinely loyal to him, and I was trying hard to do right by him because, after all of that, he had damaged my self-esteem, making me think that no one would ever love me or find me attractive again. I did not have many friends, making me question my own personality. I started to wonder if he was acting this way to get back at me for how our relationship began, even though he also cheated on me, albeit not as severely, when we first got together. In 2021, we had been together for 6 years, and that year was the only one without significant issues. COVID was still somewhat lingering, so we could spend lots of time together, and we had started a business together. We enjoyed activities we had not experienced before, such as traveling to Thailand together, dining at expensive hotels and restaurants, and purchasing clothing that, to be honest, I never thought I would be able to afford, especially since we both come from financially struggling backgrounds. By broke, I mean genuinely impoverished. We really matured as a couple, became more open in our relationship, and loved each other deeply. To add some complexity, H is Muslim, not a very devout one, but still one, and I am Christian, also not particularly devoted. So I thought, great! In 2021, being together for 6 years, we are finally in a good place in our relationship. Maybe he will propose this year. He certainly had the funds for a modest ring, and we had been together for double the time most couples take to marry. However, he did not propose. In fact, he did not propose until 2023, and that was only because I begged him the previous year. His excuse was always that he was not financially stable and wanted to purchase a ring that was worth the investment. So that is a lot of background, but why am I actually in this subreddit? Well, I am done. I no longer wish to be with him. I haven't wanted to since 2023. However, I am in a precarious situation and somewhat reliant on him at the moment, so I need some advice. Since 2021, I started living in a studio flat owned by a family friend of H. which is a very close family acquaintance, allowing me to pay minimum rent. In late 2024, H finally moved in with me in this studio flat, and during 2024, I faced significant financial struggles, which I must say H provided substantial support during. The issue is that I have a job, but it pays very little, and currently I am attempting to leave H, but I have nowhere to go. I cannot go live with my mother because she lacks the space, and I practically have no friends except one, but I cannot stay with them due to family reasons. I do not have the finances to move out on my own, so I feel trapped. This is particularly complicated with Ramadan approaching, as he wishes to conduct the nikah, Islamic marriage, soon and also aims to get legally married shortly thereafter. I believe my dilemma lies in the fact that I want to leave, but I am conflicted. The dating scene in the UK is incredibly challenging, and the prospect of never being loved again terrifies me. In my mind, I think to myself, at least I am with someone who has seen all my flaws and still wants me. Additionally, I have polycystic ovary syndrome, resulting in fertility challenges, and I desire to have children soon as I feel I somewhat have a time limit. I have always wanted to raise my children in a loving married household since my upbringing was never like that. These factors contribute to my desire to remain in this relationship, but I am not happy, and I do not feel fully loved, not in the way I wish to be loved. I have attempted to express my feelings, but conversations always escalate into arguments, and he becomes defensive. There are days when I simply want to talk and engage in deep conversations with H, but I cannot without him resorting to his phone or playing a game. H is not inherently kind to me, which is what I crave. I want a partner who loves me so much that they desire to be around me and talk to me, even when they cannot. I long for a man who cannot bear to see me in pain and will do everything in his power to ensure my happiness, but H is not that person. It is already difficult enough that I do not trust H at all. Every day, I must force myself to confront the emotions I seek to escape. The hurt, disappointment, resentment, and exhaustion from consistently being let down by the person who is supposed to love me. I have developed a deep-rooted fear and belief that he is simply going to hurt me again. I have penned numerous paragraphs about my feelings, and when we attempt to discuss them, he often claims, "I already know all this." I will not continue any further, as this is already quite a lot, and I could say much more, but I will refrain. Reddit, I need advice. How do I navigate this situation? I want to leave, but I truly feel trapped, and this relationship is damaging my mental health. Will anyone else ever love me again? I am confused, feel lost and lonely, and have many more feelings that I wish to express but cannot. Am I the antagonist for wanting to leave? Story 2. Stuck in a 9-year relationship filled with heartbreak and confusion, I supported my boyfriend through jail, yet he's now drifting away. I want to leave but fear being alone in a challenging dating world. Am I wrong for wanting out? Hello everyone. This account is temporary because my real account uses my username from all my other social media. Please do not be too hard on me, as this is my first time writing on Reddit, and I genuinely need advice without feeling attacked. You know, I'm just a girl after all. This will be a lengthy post because I intend to discuss my 9-year relationship. And as a detail-oriented person, I dislike when people leave out important information in Reddit stories. If I do omit anything, I will gladly address those points in the comments. I, a 24-year-old female, have been with H, a 23-year-old male, for 9 years. I do not want to hear the typical, "Oh, you two were high school sweethearts," because that is absolutely not the case. We met online through an ex-boyfriend of mine. I will not elaborate further on that, and we only physically met twice before starting our relationship. Keep in mind that those 2 meetings totaled a combined time of 1 hour and a half, so we truly did not know each other at all when we began dating. Furthermore, we were quite young. I was 15, and he lied about his age, telling me he was 16 when he was actually 14. I did not learn about this age discrepancy until a year into our relationship. During the first 2 years of our relationship, I cheated significantly. He cheated too, but I was the one who was much worse, and he treated me poorly when he found out. However, I recognized that I deserved his reaction because of how I had treated him, which was undeniably wrong. But I was young and insecure, and nothing seemed to run smoothly. Nevertheless, we stayed together because, honestly, I was his first girlfriend, and I had serious self-esteem issues. We both agreed we were young and would eventually grow out of it. I told myself I would never hurt him again, as I understood the impact it had on him, and I did not want to see him in pain like that again. However, as one might expect, after all the cheating and drama, we were not in a great place. Things worsened when, at 18, H was sent to jail for a year. During that year, I was the best partner possible, and if he saw this post, he would undoubtedly agree. I sent him money for his canteen every week and stayed at his mother's house every weekend to care for her and his little sister. I borrowed over $1,000 from his mother, which I have not received back entirely, which is fine, by the way. I took his sister out to eat and to amusement parks. I attended every visit, even if it meant missing my classes for the day. I answered 99 of his calls unless I was working. I sent him 1 to 2 letters each week, including games and puzzles in every letter. I did not cheat, which is just the bare minimum, but I did not even look at another man. When he was released from jail, I spent over $1,000 on games, clothes, and perfumes to ensure he had the newest items. I did so much and more, and I hoped that, when he came out of jail, we would be happy because I had proven my love. However, since his release, many events have transpired. A lot of what I will mention below occurred from 2019 to now 2025. He went to Marbella with his friends, staying in a villa with girls while lying to me about it. Initially, he told me there would not be any girls there, and while in Marbella, he ignored all my texts and calls, which was even worse given that this incident occurred just before my birthday. He allowed girls to flirt with him on TikTok Live as he attempted to become a streamer and TikToker. He argued with me about going live with other females, insisting it was necessary for engagement purposes. He allowed his friend to discuss our private matters on TikTok Live during one of our disagreements. Apparently, he permitted his friend to send a message from his WhatsApp stating, "If they are good-looking, I will whip their asses," referring to other girls. To this day, I do not believe that his friend sent that text. He went to a house full of half-naked models and girls for a music video, which was deeply embarrassing. He mentioned considering a trip to Barcelona with his friends, where one of them suggested bringing girls back to their apartment. It is worth noting that 3 guys were going, 2 of whom were in relationships, including H himself. He attended a party without informing or discussing it with me and went clubbing behind my back without mentioning it either. He flirted with girls on Snapchat and lied to me about it for a year. When he used to sell merchandise, he would call girls on his other phone and flirt with them to demonstrate that he still had it. That is not even everything. I simply cannot be bothered to document it all. As you can see, I feel foolish, and to make matters worse, after all this, I still wanted so desperately to make things work. I loved him, was loyal, and tried hard to treat him right because, to be honest, after all of that, he crushed my self-esteem. I doubted anyone else would love me or find me attractive. I do not have many friends, which led me to question my personality. I began to think that he was doing all this to get back at me for how our relationship started, despite the fact that he also cheated on me, just not as egregiously when we first got together. In 2021, we had been together for 6 years, and this was the only year without problems. The lingering effects of COVID-19 allowed us to spend significant time together, and we had started a business together. We accomplished numerous things we had not before, such as traveling to Thailand, visiting expensive hotels and restaurants, and buying clothing that, to be honest, I never thought I could afford, especially since we both came from impoverished backgrounds. By poor, I mean truly lacking resources. We genuinely grew as a couple, became more open in our relationship, and expressed a great deal of love for one another. To complicate matters further, H is a Muslim, not a particularly devout one, but still a Muslim, while I am a Christian, also not very devout. Therefore, I was hopeful that, after 6 years together in 2021, perhaps he would propose. He certainly had the financial means for an inexpensive ring, and we had been together long enough that most couples typically marry within this time frame. However, he did not propose. In fact, he did not propose until 2023, and that was only because I begged him the year before. His constant excuse was that he was not financially stable and wanted to buy me a ring that was worth it. So that provides a substantial background, but what am I actually doing in this subreddit, you may wonder? Well, I have reached the end of my patience. I do not want to be with him any longer. I have not wanted to be with him since 2023, but I am in a difficult situation and somewhat reliant on him at the moment, so I need advice. Since 2021, I started living in a studio flat owned by a family friend of H, who is very close to the family. Consequently, I pay minimal rent. In late 2024, H finally moved in with me, and during that year, I faced significant financial struggles, during which H did support me a lot financially. The issue is that I have a job, but it pays very little, and at this moment, I am trying to leave H, but I have nowhere to go. I cannot go live with my mother because she does not have the space. I have only one friend, but I cannot stay with them due to family reasons. I do not have the funds to move out on my own, so I feel trapped. This is especially concerning because Ramadan is approaching, and he wants to perform the nikah, Islamic marriage, soon, and also wishes to get legally married, which complicates matters further. I believe my dilemma is that I want to leave, but I am also torn about it, as dating in the UK can be incredibly difficult, and the thought of never being loved again terrifies me. In my mind, I rationalize that at least I am with someone who has seen all my flaws and still wants me. I also have polycystic ovary syndrome, which has caused fertility issues, and I desire to have children soon since there seems to be a time limit. Additionally, I have always wanted to raise my children in a loving married household, as my upbringing was not like that. These factors contribute to my desire to remain in this relationship, but I am unhappy and do not feel completely loved in the way I wish to be loved. I have tried to discuss my feelings, but it always leads to arguments, and he becomes defensive. There are days when I want to have deep conversations with H, but I cannot engage with him without him turning to his phone or playing a game. H is not naturally kind to me, which is what I crave. I want someone who loves me so much that they desire my company and want to communicate with me. I want a man who cannot bear to see me upset and is willing to do anything within his power to bring me happiness, and that person is not H. It is already difficult that I do not trust H at all. Every day, I have to force myself to confront emotions I want to escape. The hurt, disappointment, resentment, and exhaustion from being continually let down by the person who is supposed to love me. I have developed a fear, a deep-rooted belief that he will inevitably hurt me again. I have written him numerous paragraphs outlining my feelings, and when we attempt to discuss them, he says, "I already know all this stuff." I will not continue elaborating because it is already a lot, and I could say so much more, but I will refrain. Reddit, I need advice on how to navigate this situation. I want to leave, but I genuinely cannot, and this relationship is destroying my mental health. Will anyone else ever love me again? I do not know. I am so confused and in need of help. I feel lost and lonely and have many more feelings I wish to express but cannot. Am I the antagonist for wanting to leave? Story 3. Kicked out or just taking a stand. After years of caretaking and strained relationships, I finally told my mom it was time to go. Abusive pasts and recent clashes led to my breaking point. Now, I am left wondering, did I make the right choice for both of us? I am not certain where to begin. My mother, 65 years old, female, and I, 35 years old, female, have always had a troubled relationship. Due to my mother's alcoholism, a very traumatic divorce, and her nervous breakdown following the divorce, which resulted from an affair leading my father to have another child with a family friend, it primarily fell on me, as the oldest, to be a caretaker for my sister and eventually my mother. Especially after the divorce when I was 7 years old, I became a full-time babysitter, tutor, and cook for my little sister. I also acted as the peacemaker in the household, attempting to diffuse situations before they escalated into violence. Sometimes I was successful, but often I would end up putting myself in harm's way or directing my mother's anger towards me instead of my little sister. I helped my mother with all the chores and meals, and once I began babysitting other children and working at a restaurant at 14, I also contributed to small bills. I frequently put her to bed at night or held her hair while she was sick. I tried my absolute best to be a good sister and daughter. Shortly after my mother's mental breakdown, she was diagnosed with several mental and physical conditions, and her drinking worsened. Eventually, during my teenage years, due to the continuous fighting between my sister and mother, we had to move in with my father. The arguments between them escalated to physical violence, and sometimes their conflicts turned against me, the failing peacemaker. It became untenable. My little sister moved to live with my father, and because my mother could not support me without any child support, she sent me to live with my sister and father. That hurt deeply, but I never lost hope that she would turn her life around and that we would finally have the mother-daughter relationship I always longed for. However, her drinking continued to worsen, and she was diagnosed with pancreatitis as a result of her excessive drinking. The doctors warned her that she would die if she did not stop, so she managed to achieve sobriety and has remained sober for over 15 years. As time passed, my mother and I maintained a strained relationship, at best. While her sobriety was beneficial, she continually behaved as if the abuse and trauma of my childhood never occurred, opting to sweep it under the rug and move on. Although I would like to do this, I find it impossible. My childhood was very traumatic, and I still struggle with everything that transpired. However, I do not blame her completely or even partially for everything. She did not have a good start in life, and she worked hard to ensure that we had food and that the rent was paid. She could have been much worse. She did not completely abandon us and mostly tried to do right by us. Occasionally, though, she allowed her anger and mental illnesses to overwhelm her and lacked the proper tools to manage her life. I want to discuss the things that happened while growing up, to seek healing and move forward, but that requires her to acknowledge those events took place, which she is unwilling to do. As a result, we have never fully addressed that baggage, putting a significant strain on our relationship. I moved away from my family as soon as I was able and tried to leave all the unhappiness behind. A few years into living independently in another state, I discovered that my mother was about to be evicted and was unable to pay her bills due to medical costs, so I offered for her to move in with me and get back on her feet. That turned out to be the worst decision I have ever made. We fought constantly, and I ultimately asked her to move out. She found a place to live, and I assisted her in the move. During the moving process, I wanted to stop everything and start over, but she was too angry, and I was too proud to beg, so we parted ways. I did not speak to her for over a year, and neither of us attempted to reach out to the other. I assumed she wanted nothing to do with me and decided to leave her alone. In her new residence, my mother was brutally sexually assaulted by a group of men, and it nearly cost her life. She underwent multiple surgeries and contracted Clostridioides difficile during the assault. My father was one of the men involved. He was not tried or charged with anything, and her assault was never prosecuted, a topic I do not wish to delve into further. She feels that she is owed justice and continues to work through the trauma caused by this event. My little sister supported my father as a character witness when my mother sought an order of protection against him, and due to a series of absurd events, which I also do not want to discuss, it was dismissed, leaving my mother unable to obtain even a restraining order. This situation fractured my family, and everyone chose sides. I firmly believe my mother and had already cut my father out of my life due to other reasons. However, my mother's assault solidified my decision to cease any contact with him. All of this context is crucial, I assure you. Over the years since her assault, my mother and I have tried to rebuild our relationship, but it has been challenging. Fast forward to about a year ago, when my mother visited during a holiday. Toward the end of her stay, she broke down, expressing how unsafe she felt in her current home, which was just 20 minutes away from where she was assaulted, and how she was struggling financially. She then asked if she could move in with me and stay in my spare bedroom. Inside, I felt immense guilt and a desire to help, but I also considered how we could not seem to get along and that I had moved to another state for a reason. I wanted to distance myself from everyone who made me feel terrible throughout my life, including her. Not to mention, we had already tried living together, and it had failed miserably. I blame myself for her assault. If I had not made her leave, she would have been safe living with me in another state, far from my father. I still hoped for a mother-daughter relationship, some semblance of mutual love and respect. I thought this could be an opportunity to achieve that and assist my mother in the process. Now, my mother has been living with me for over a year. I pay for nearly everything: rent, bills, food, etc. She only pays for her cell phone and medication. I am trying to encourage her to save money, and I hope my covering the bills has supported that goal. She has helped with household tasks since I work long hours while she does not work, and I express my gratitude whenever she loads the dishwasher or vacuums. I do not want her to feel like a live-in maid or that she must clean because I cover the bills. My intention is for her to relax and live peacefully, free from fear and poverty. I no longer want to see her struggle. Unfortunately, this week we had a significant argument, and both sides said regrettable things. She initiated the conflict by accusing me of speaking with my father and always siding with him. She claimed I was accepting money from my father and that I would always run back to him for help. This is a recurring issue. It hurts each time as it highlights her lack of trust in and understanding of me. She continued with hurtful comments regarding my appearance, work ethic, and mental state. She also began blaming me for things my little sister has done in the past. I finally snapped, telling her I no longer wanted to live with her and needed her to leave. She went to find packing boxes and is currently packing up her room as I write this. The rest of her belongings are in storage in another state, as she placed her furniture in a storage unit when she moved in with me last time. Throughout her packing, she has made it increasingly difficult for me to reconsider my decision, hurling the nastiest things she could think of at me. I regret telling her that I want her to leave. However, I also recognize it is probably for the best. She mentioned someone's name I had never heard her mention who would pick her and her belongings up. I am fairly certain she has nowhere to go and no money. I suspect she will be homeless, at least for a time if she leaves now. I just wish I could take it all back, but it has already been said. I attempted to discuss it with her today, but she was so mean and hateful that I cannot see how any of this can be salvaged. She also pointed out that once she leaves, she is finished with me for good. I am devastated. I wish I could take everything back and refrain from saying anything. If she stays, I am miserable because she consistently makes me feel terrible about myself, almost daily. If she leaves, I feel like the worst person in the world. What kind of person forces their mother out onto the street? Am I the villain here? I certainly feel like one. Story 4. After 5.5 years, I realized my boyfriend's poor communication skills might be the end of us. He promised to change, but months of inaction made me question, is it too late to save this relationship? First of all, I have never used Reddit before. I am only coming to this subreddit because I am a longtime listener of Too Hot Takes and Smosh, and I thought this would be a great place to seek some advice. Additionally, I am from Germany, and English is not my native language, so I apologize if I make any mistakes in this text. Diving into the story, my boyfriend and I have been together for 5.5 years. After 3 years, he unexpectedly ended our relationship with no signs or arguments, nothing at all. At that time, his reason was that he did not love me anymore and could not keep pretending. I was devastated. I did not see it coming and was left without closure. 2 months later, he approached me and admitted that he regretted breaking up with me. The real reason, he stated, was that he had felt resentful about things I had done or failed to do. There were 3 main points. He did not know how to cope with the fact that I had recently discovered I was bisexual. He was upset that I had not introduced him to my 3 siblings. I was his first boyfriend, and he felt as though he was missing out. Keep in mind, he had never communicated these feelings to me before. He wanted to try again, and I agreed under one condition. He needed to work on his communication skills and discuss such matters with me in the future. He agreed. Fast forward to last year, 4 years into the relationship, we had 3 significant arguments, all stemming from his poor communication skills. However, the one that stands out occurred last summer. For several months, we had discussed the possibility of trying a threesome. When he brought it up in July, I explained that I wanted to wait because our relationship was not in a good state. I asked if he would be okay with that, to which he replied yes. Therefore, I assumed that was the end of the discussion. Then, 2 months later, we went to a public swimming pool. I'm not sure what the exact English term is, and I was talking about a couple who had an open relationship. I followed that conversation by saying, "I am glad we are both monogamous." He then responded, "I am not so sure about that anymore." I was taken aback. I did not know how to respond. I was stunned. Not only had he never mentioned this to me before, but he also chose to drop this bombshell in a public pool. That was neither the appropriate time nor the suitable place for such a conversation. We obviously left, and we talked in the car. After a lengthy discussion, he confessed that he did not genuinely want an open relationship. However, he feared that, with me always postponing the threesome, he would miss out on those experiences. Once again, I was astonished. He was aware that I wanted to do it too, but I also wished to wait until we were in a better situation. Instead of communicating with me and expressing that he felt I was just pushing it further away, he remained silent. A few weeks later, I sat down with him and expressed that I no longer felt safe in our relationship. His lack of communication made me anxious that, at any moment, a relationship-ending issue could arise. I told him that he needed to actively work on improving his communication skills. He said he understood. He mentioned he would try harder to open up and communicate with me. He wanted me to feel safe again. 2 months later, 1 week after New Year's Eve, I asked him, "Have you watched any videos or read anything about communication?" He looked into my eyes sincerely and replied, "No." I probed further with, "What do you mean, no?" He said, "It's not such a big deal. I told you I am going to open up. I do not need to learn how to do it, I just do it." I must admit, I lost my temper. I attempted to explain to him how it felt that he was not making an effort to work on his communication skills and how his lack of interest in resolving this made me feel unimportant. But as usual, he shut down and stonewalled me. So I left. A few days later, he asked if I could assist him in getting started and perhaps send him some links or videos. I watched a few videos myself and sent him 3 of them. Each video was around 20 minutes long, not too long or time-consuming. He thanked me and told me he would watch them during his free days. However, he did not watch a single one for an entire month, offering excuses like "I forgot" or "work is hard right now," among many others. Finally, he managed to watch one video. And that was it. 2 weeks ago, I sat him down once more and explained that not only did his lack of communication make me feel insecure in the relationship, but he had also disregarded one of my needs for 4 months. I told him I honestly did not know if I could continue with this anymore. After that conversation, he finally understood how serious the situation was and began to work on himself by listening to audiobooks and watching videos. However, I am left wondering if it is too late. I feel fatigued, not taken seriously, disrespected, and much more. I do not even know if I love him anymore. I am aware that in a long-term relationship, one inevitably goes through very challenging times and must tolerate wrongs. But is this situation worthy of investing more time and energy, or is it a valid reason for a breakup? I apologize for the lengthy text. I appreciate any advice and thank you for reading.